Hi, Georgie. How you doing? Can you hear me now?
I'm doing great.
Awesome.
Yes, I can hear you.
I'm glad the crew worked it out. So it says here, you have New Age ideas. You claim we are eternal beings. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Why do you get the idea that we are eternal beings?
Because we want meaningful and joyful experiences. And I extrapolate that from spirit, from heaven, that we want to expand. We want to have new experiences, new desires.
Okay, so question on that, Damien, right? I agree. We want to have new experiences. We want to have new desires. We want all of these things. I am in full agreement with you on that. But does us wanting something make that thing true? Like, how does that equate to we want to be this, therefore we are this? How do you make that jump?
Well, these kind of thought processes are called metaphysics. So if you imagine we are eternal beings, non-physical eternal beings, and for there to be eternity, there must be expansion, because it won't be eternity if there is no expansion.
But that what you basically just said was, if we imagine that this is true, then it's true. And I actually care about not imagining that it's true, but having a reason to think it's true. We can imagine all kinds of things as true that are not true, right?
Georgie, if I could just quickly ask, what do you mean by expansion? I'd like to get your thoughts on that and what you actually...
curious about that as well.
Sorry, Kelly. Didn't mean to cut
you
you
off. No, you're good. No, yeah, one of us had to ask it, right? So yeah, what do you mean by? Can you define that expansion for us?
Meaningful experiences, new desires, the opportunity to be ourselves, our true selves.
If we're eternal, why is it that we don't remember all these things that happen to us through eternity, and we only remember this life? Do you think?
That's a very good point, and I would say my response is that we are getting out of our own way, so we can have new desires, or at least have the experience of new desires.
Georgie, could I ask, do you believe in reincarnation?
I don't believe in time. So
Don't
no.
believe in time.
That didn't really answer the question, though. Do you believe in reincarnation?
How old are you, Georgie?
27.
Okay.
Do you believe
if you don't believe in...
But do you believe you're 27?
I don't feel like it, but yeah.
So then you do believe in time, at least in that regard, right?
In my point of view, every moment is eternal, and we're creating it as we go.
Okay. So Damien or Georgie, the one thing I want to really ask here, right? Like you're telling us what you believe, right? You're telling us you believe that we experience all moments for eternity, that their time is an illusion at best, right? You're telling us that we are eternal beings. How do we know this to be true? How do you know this to be true?
Well, a good exercise, mental exercise that you can do is ask yourself, what would you be doing if you had infinite awareness and are an eternal being?
Okay. So if I ask myself that question, then I will come to the conclusion that we are?
Most possibly.
Okay. And so if I ask myself that question and I come to the conclusion that we aren't, then how do we tell the difference between my conclusion and your conclusion?
Well, you see, spirit is not what we are looking for. We are looking for new things. So
yes, I believe. I agree. We're looking for new things. But new things doesn't mean eternity, right? You're jumping a lot of gaps here, right? You're going from, I can imagine this thing, I can ask myself this question, I can see this as maybe a possibility, therefore it's true. And that's what it sounds to me like what you're saying. Am I misunderstanding you here, Georgi?
Can you repeat?
Yeah, not a problem. What I'm hearing from you is you can imagine this thing, right? You can ask yourself these questions as if it's true, and therefore it is true. That's what it sounds to me like what you're saying. And that doesn't logically follow to me in any way, shape, or form. I can ask myself all kinds of questions about things that aren't true. I can imagine all kinds of things that aren't true. How do we know it's true? If we can ask ourselves a question and have that answer be both a real answer or not a real answer, how do we know if the answer is actually based in reality?
Well, have you heard the phrase, we're all in this together? It's
yeah, but that
the greater part of us, the more expanded part is 99% in spirit, and the 1% is also in spirit. We're in a kind of dream. So it's all about having more enjoyable experiences.
I agree. Like
The
the
last part I'll
pursuit,
agree with.
yeah, the pursuit of more enjoyable experiences is so valid. I'm here for that. I'm all here for looking for more enjoyable experiences, right? But that does not mean that we are therefore eternal. That does not follow, right? You cannot say we seek out new experiences, therefore we seek out new experiences for eternity.
Yeah. It doesn't logically follow.
Correct,
I don't understand. Yeah,
No, but that wasn't me agreeing with you.
Right. That was us trying to figure out what you're saying. And what now the idea is, how does what you think, right? That we want more experiences plus what equals eternity? Because just wanting to do things doesn't equal eternity in and of itself. There's got to be something else as part of that equation. So show us your work, as any good math teacher would ask. I learned that from Scott Dickey. Show us the work. You know, wanting experiences plus what equals eternity?
Well, so, excuse me a moment. Existence is not subject to time. Time is a concept within existence, and time does not exist. We're creating it. So existence cannot become non-existence by definition, by their quality.
Hang on, sorry. You said that we create time, but you also said you don't believe in time. So which one is it? Like it feels to me like you are just coming up with answers to questions that are interesting to you and coming to conclusions that these things are the actual reality. Like it's well, as I've heard it before, it sounds like bong rip theology. It's like you sit in a room, you think really hard about stuff, you come up with answers, and you be like, I like that answer, I'm going to think that's true. And that's not how we come to conclusions about reality in any way, shape, or form.
I have mentioned in previous calls that I have some sources on the internet, on YouTube, for example, of people channeling beings from beyond the earth.
Okay, but what does that have to do with us being eternal, right? Like that's a different claim. That's a completely different claim.
Yeah, right. Channeling is something completely different, right? And that's going to need its own set of proofs, right?
Can I ask you a quick question, Georgi, about the impacts of this kind of belief? Question for you, Georgi. My question, Georgi, is, do you think if we have an infinite amount of experiences and we get to experience, as a result of infinity, everything that we could ever want to experience, what at that point in time is the value of each of our experiences?
The value?
Yeah, if we have an infinite amount of experiences, and as a result, we will get to experience everything we ever want to experience, or even things we don't want to experience, what is the value of those experiences? Do you think that these experiences have value if we get as many of them as we want?
Well, you see, existence is something like a trinity. There's positive energy, negative energy.
Georgi, I apologize. I apologize, Georgi. That's not an answer to the question I asked, right? That is completely tangential to what I asked you. I asked you, if we have an infinite amount of experiences, do you think that those experiences have value?
What I'm saying is that everything is neutral when we imbue meaning in it.
Okay, so then if everything is neutral, you're saying that there is not value in them, there is no inherent value?
This is where the part about the meaningful experiences comes in. We're creating it as we go. So it's like, we want to have fun. We want to experience our infinite eternal nature from a new point of view. And physical reality provides that.
But if we're spirit, then what is physical reality? Where does the delineation occur between the physical material and spirit? Actually, this leads to the next question I wanted to ask. What do you mean by spirit?
The greater part of us is in spirit, but we as physical beings are also in spirit.
Wait, please. The greater part of us does not in any way explain or be an answer to that question. That just was an answer what very nebulous answer that could have meant anything. The greater part of us.
I get that you fervently believe what you believe, Georgi, but yeah, as Kelly said, it's I'm trying to imagine what you mean by the greater part of us. And there's something you said before that, like, if we imagine like ourselves as infinite beings and able to know and understand every concept, how do I, as a person who lives in a country, in one country and speaks a couple of languages on one planet, how am I supposed to understand everything given I'm so finite?
Well, that is the point of physical reality, so you can walk the journey. The journey is like the destination itself.
That's such a meaningless tautology.
Yeah,
like you just said a bunch of words that have no real meaning, and I mean, it might sound a little harsh, but to be honest, that feels like everything you've said today. Everything you've said is I think this thing, I feel this thing, it seems to me. And when we ask you for evidence, all you do is go back to I think this, it seems this, it feels to me. And then when we point out why we don't see that as making sense, you say, well, I think this, I feel this, and it seems to me. There's nothing substantive in anything that you're presenting us here. And it's like, how are we supposed to find any of this convincing or honestly even interesting if you can't substantiate anything?
Actually, I'll disagree. I do find it kind of interesting, but but I think the question is how do you prove it to a rational skeptic? How do you prove it?
I think if
well, I have.
Go ahead, please.
I have cited some sources before when I've called in, but they're regardless. Because yes.
I was going to say, a lot of the things you're saying were things that I would have said 20 years ago, 20, 30 years ago. And I don't know. Are you familiar with the Zen Buddhist path to enlightenment? Do you know, first there is a mountain. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I am.
Okay, what it sounds to me like you're in that middle part where the mountain is no longer a mountain and the river is no longer a river. That's what it sounds like to me when you talk the way you're talking. It seems to me that you haven't quite gotten there. You're only halfway on your path. Does that make any sense to you? Because to you, the way you're talking, it seems like you no longer think the mountain is really a mountain.
Well, I want to tell you a different story. A teacher said to the student,
No.
see the Buddha.
I didn't tell a story. I was just like, I'm trying to make a comment on your narrative, right? And then just bringing up another spiritual story isn't going to do it for us because we don't believe in that spiritual nonsense. See what I mean? So I'm trying to get you to maybe think about what you're telling us from a different point of view. Because where you're at, like I said, where you're at, the things you are saying are things I would have said 20, 30 years ago.
And I think these are things that could be interesting if they were substantiated, right? If you gave us any reason to actually hold on to these thoughts, or any reason to actually ponder them. But Kelly just came out and said, hey, here's a problem that I'm having with you, with what you're presenting here. And what you responded to was, let me tell you a different story.
Yeah, it's like
based on the same thing.
It was like what I said went right over your head. You didn't listen to it at all. And I was trying to put it in the language you would better understand than some of the language we had been using.
But the fact that we're eternal and each moment is a parallel.
No, stop. That we are eternal has not been an established fact. You can't say the fact that we are eternal because that is not an established fact yet.
That's kind of assuming the thing that you want to prove.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I'm talking about Zeno's paradox, where the arrow goes and has infinite amount of distances to cross.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Zeno's paradox, and I also know that mathematically we've solved Zeno's paradox as well. So I don't use Zeno. I used to use Zeno's paradox, but since I learned more about mathematics, I don't use it anymore because it's a really, really bad example to use because we have actually solved that paradox. It's no longer a paradox. And if you don't know about that, you should go look it up.
Well, gentlemen, I think my strongest point is that we are getting out of our own way by incarnating in physical reality.
I don't think that's a strong point at all because you haven't given us any reason to consider it or given any credibility to it as a strong point. It's just a thing that you said. Cool. Yeah. I'm glad you think that. I'm glad that does something for you. But like,
I believe that you believe that.
Yes, and I think I cannot change my beliefs now that they have them.
Sure you can. I changed mine.
So did I.
It depends on if you actually want to investigate it well enough to actually like substantiate it. If you want to actually investigate your beliefs well enough to and actually evaluate them meaningfully, then you can change your beliefs. You could either better justify your beliefs or come to an understanding of why the beliefs that you hold aren't valid. If you don't want to change your beliefs, if you don't care about if what you believe is true, and if you don't care about actually being able to support the things that you say, then you can't change your beliefs, and then no one's going to be able to do anything about that. But that's gonna be the choice. The choice isn't going to be about if you can change your beliefs. It's going to be if you want to actually do the work to substantiate the things that you say.
Well, things in physical reality seem so familiar to me, like alcohol and these kind of things. It's like you before you tried them, after you tried them, it's like, oh yes, now I remember.
Usually people drink alcohol to forget.
Yeah.
I might need to have a drink after this to forget this call.
I'm not trying to convert you on anything, guys. I just want to have a good conversation. And my strongest point was not so good.
Yeah. Well, Georgi, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us.
Yeah,
Thank you, Georgi.
You know, I encourage you think more about it. Like look into the solution to Zeno's paradox that Kelly pointed out, and call back again when you think you can actually like give us reasons to consider this in a meaningful way, and then we'd be happy to give it more thought.
Okay, sounds great.
Cool.
Thank you, Georgi.
I would really love you to go check out Zeno's paradox though, and how we have solved it. I don't remember right off the bat how we did it, but it was a new field of mathematics that's just been done within the last few decades, and we have actually solved Zeno. So
Thank you.
I used to use Zeno's paradox all the time because it's such a fun thing, you know, and it's but unfortunately it's not valid anymore.